burn it to the ground. A Marxist Google engineer has been arrested in a riot in Portland, charged with assault, resisting arrest, attempting escape, and more. And I'm going to show you proof that Google is a politically charged machine, biased, and trying to manipulate you. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on the internet, we're going to talk about this Marxist Google engineer, as well as Google itself. We're going to expose how Google lies to you. Lies to you about what's really going on. Now, we've been dealing with these so-called protests around the United States and the world, and it's been causing a lot of damage and harm. A lot of left-wing activist types, you know who it is, those liberals, those soy boys, Antifa, BLM, and other organized groups have been out there looting, shooting, stealing, kneeling, and basically being a public menace. They've been spreading chaos and terror. Now, what if I were to tell you that Google, not only is Google full of these people, full of Marxists and Antifa and BLM members who go out and riot, who destroy the community, and who bring harm to others? What if I were to tell you that Google actually encourages this behavior and hides the truth about what these groups have done? Well, I'm going to show you proof, folks, and it's not going to be pretty. Now, if you go to Google and you type in list of people who have been killed by Antifa, the first search result is anti-fascist linked to 0 murders in the US in 25 years. Now, this is a blatant lie. Plenty of people, in fact, over 30 people have died in the Antifa and BLM riots, lootings, and attacks, assaults in the United States. In the past few months, over the past year, there's been nothing but violence. Do you remember the guy who was defending his business with a sword? Well, he was beaten by members of Antifa, dressed in black, all black. That's how you know that they're Antifa. And they beat him. He went to the hospital in critical condition. He died later. Oh yeah, he's gone. And that's not the only person that Antifa has hurt. Antifa has hurt far, far more. And yet Google is showing you this propaganda piece that is lying about the hit list of Antifa. Now, let's take the same thing and put it into Bing. What do you get? If you click on the first result, you get Tucker Carlson compiles name of people who have been killed in the BLM and Antifa riots. Black Lives Matter, ? All of these are the victims not being talked about. None of these black lives mattered at all to BLM. So, the first search results actually indicates that Antifa, yes, has hurt people. And if you go further down, you do see Yahoo, where someone's asking a question, how many people have been killed, and someone says, a bunch. Their paramilitary organization killed any democratic socialist who refused to join their ranks, and they viewed the bad men from World War II more favorably than other perceived fascists. So, the reason that they said in the last 25 years, even though that's a lie, there has been killings in the last year, is because if you look at the history of Antifa, you know, they committed genocide, basically. They were killers. Always have been. So, not only are Google search biased, I can show you straight from the horse's mouth other Google employees.
I certainly find the selection deeply offensive, and I know many of you do too.
It did feel like a ton of bricks dropped on my chest.
Can I move to Canada?
Is there anything positive you see from this election result?
Boy, that's a really tough one right now.
Now, in other parts of the video, they go on to say that the election is the result of the people and voting and that they accept the results. But Google issued a statement saying the video saying nothing was said at that meeting or any other meeting to suggest that any political bias ever influences the way we build or operate our products. To the contrary, our products are built for everyone.
Now, it's funny how they say that they're not biased. They're not trying to manipulate you, and they're not trying to change the election results. But let's look at what Google employees are saying themselves.
The reason we launched our AI principles is because people were not putting that line in the sand. They were not saying what is fair and what's equitable. So we're like, well, we are a big company, we're going to say it.
People who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
They're not an objective source of information.
People are also training our algorithms. Like, if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?
They are a highly biased political machine.
2020 is certainly on top of, now my old organisation, Trust and Safety, is top of mind. They've been working on it since 2016 to make sure we're ready for 2020.
You can see them talking about manipulating Google in order to change results of the presidential election, and more specifically, how they can do this in 2020 to stop Trump from becoming president. This flies in the face of everything they say in their official statements. Google is trying to manipulate you, control you, and tell you who you should vote for. If that doesn't scare you, well, I think you're being naive.
Elizabeth Warren is saying that we should break up Google. And like, I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better, it'll make it worse, because now all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do. And it's like,
I don't know about you folks, but this makes me extremely angry. So, let's look at this Google employee and find out what the details are. So here's a picture of him. His name is Zachary Trudo, software engineer at Google. You can see he was arrested. Seattle area Google engineer Zachary Ames Trudo was arrested at the Portland riot this weekend. The 32-year-old Marxist was charged with assault, attempting escape, and resisting arrest. So they posted about this on Twitter, and no one's really surprised. Andy knows, seen here talking about it. He's posting a bunch of people who are arrested. Now, someone here asks a very pertinent question. Joseph Moe says, is Google still his employer? These tech companies would probably be okay with this. But if they talked about gender or race, he would be toast. So that's a very good point. Google. Is Google still employing this Marxist who is committing terror on the streets? If they do, it really goes to show you just who Google backs. They back the people burning down homes and dragging people out of their cars and beating them and causing mayhem and strife. Oh yes, Google, the left-wing nutheads. They love those violent riots. So here are some of Trudeau's social media posts before he closed his account. Too bad. Too late, buddy. It's out there. Burn it to the ground, Trudeau said about Portland rioters lighting the police union building on fire. So that's a direct call to domestic terror. I think maybe the authorities should think about charging him with that. I hope they have access to these screenshots. Here you can see Zachary Trudo saying, protesters are taking real action. Couldn't be more proud. Burn it to the ground. So how did we end up in this situation with extremists working at Google? Well, it's a big problem with the tech industry in general. It's extremely left-wing. There are a lot of snooty, smug, extremely annoying individuals. People who don't lift weights, who are physically weak, and often very feminine. I'm not saying this to be mean, but when every single Google member looks like a soy boy, it's kind of hard not to. So Zachary Trudo also channeled Karl Marx in a June Facebook post. He says, and I'll show you the picture, F yeah, one way to hurt the bourgeois is to hurt their businesses. Closing down the ports is a terrific show of solidarity between labor and BLM. Go ILWU. So as you can tell, this guy was a literal communist. Now people wonder, what is the difference between a Marxist and a communist? Well, nothing really. Karl Marx basically wrote the book on socialism. He was a lazy person who never worked a day in his life, much like socialists today. So, when we're talking about Marxists, we're talking about Karl Marx, we're talking about socialism and communism. It's all the same thing. Some people will say it's not, but it is. You starve to death in the end. Google executives have testified over and over again that the tech giant doesn't target conservatives. Yet one of their engineers is revealed to be an overt Marxist who is facing serious charges. And, I might even consider this like, I don't know, part and parcel. You always have a few bad apples, but at Google it's worse than that. Because I think we've seen from the proof that I've shown you that at Google, they're full of extremists. Those are the kinds of people, and they're actively saying they want to control your mind. Control what you think, control what you believe, control what you can see. They're manipulating you and pushing everyone towards the left. They want to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president. And they're evil. Did you know that Google's motto used to be, don't be evil? They removed it. They literally removed it because, well, now they're evil. So Fui here says the following. This idiot working for Google, making solid 6 figures and ranting about the bourgeois is the bourgeois. He's Kool-Aid drinking cult member. which is a plus for being employed by Google. Coming in with a hammer and sickle tattooed on your forehead is probably the only way they would hire a white male these days. Yup. Isn't it funny how a lot of these communists they're rich, they're spoiled, they're privileged, they're some of the stupidest people on the planet, but you know what? That's pretty much the story. Marxist Google engineer gets what he deserves, arrested and being charged. Let's hope that more Google employees get arrested for the same thing. And let's hope that Google itself stops hiring left-wing extremists. Not a good look. Yikes. Oof. Have some basic empathy for the victims of those riots. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? Let me know down below in the comment section. As always, if you like the content and want to support the work I do, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar. Joining will give you access to a private Discord server. If you want to donate, there's DonorBox and Crypto. Links are down below. And why not visit my merch store? You know, the summer's really hot. I have the AC blaring right now, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. You know, because it's hot. So if you're in the market for a new t-shirt, check out my merch store. Link is in the description. It'll take you. There's a lot of cool designs there. I'm working on getting more. And lastly, if nothing else, and you want to help the channel, you can simply share the video. It's easy, it's fun, it's free, and you're going to drop those red pills on all those normies. Anyhow, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.